your best way is your home food system, which we're going to be spending most of the day on. And home food systems are defined as your domestic, cultivated foods in the home, neighborhood, and commons. And I'll give you a definition of a permaculture garden. A permaculture garden is any garden in which you're growing food without damaging the soil. Now, an organic garden could be a permaculture garden, or it can also not be a permaculture garden. There's ways of doing organic gardening that still damages the soil. So a garden should be a cultivated ecosystem where you have all of the elements and the relationships and the connections between the elements work together. So what are the necessary ingredients of a permaculture garden and of an integrated home food system? And to follow along, we'll be covering the second page of your home food system handout. Now, water is certainly a necessary ingredient. The gardener's dream is 1 inch per week, but there's some things you can do to reduce that need, and to some degree. And the first one is to keep your soil covered at all times, to slow down evaporation, absorb rain, and prevent erosion. I remember seeing my father garden, and he always tilled the soil and then left the soil bare, planted in rows, but he had those bare areas. And who knew that he was losing so much moisture to evaporation, that it was damaging the soil structure, that every time the rain came through, it would wash a little bit of the soil away. I didn't know that. So keeping the soil covered is big. Another thing to do is harvesting rainwater in barrels and cisterns, sending the overflow out to a garden pond, which is rich in biomass, nutrient-rich biomass. We're going to be covering a little bit more of water because actually your water use is key, foundational in your design for your land. It's very important to not use sprinklers. Sprinklers throw up so much water in the air and you lose so much to evaporation before it even comes back to, especially in heat like we have now. You lose so much water. It's much better to use drip or soak hoses or hand water. Now, I mentioned that water catchment is fundamental to your design. A key there is to always catch and store high, if you can. You always want to maximize the water flow that your land receives, and as it flows through your land, to slow it down as much as possible so that you get more and more of it infiltrating where you want it. So the key words are source, store, conserve, use, reuse, and clean. And this is a huge topic in the permaculture design course. But I do want to mention swales and berms, and I think you have a handout on creating swales in your packet. And if you have any slope at all in your land, slow the flow of water over your land in a way by building swales and berms on the contour with the ends turned uphill. A beam is a raised mound of earth or other materials, and a swale is the dip or a shallow place. And so what you want to do is dig the swale and contour like a ditch and place a berm just downhill from it. So it would look like, yeah, y'all got it. And so what happens is the water flowing down gets stopped, and it doesn't, it infiltrates right there in the, and it feeds whatever plants you've planted both in the swale and the berm. And it's astonishing what, that Koinonia is a community down in southeast Georgia, and they held a permaculture design course there. And they had a slope of, and they did the swale and berm thing and found it really increased their production tremendously. They didn't have to